What day of the week is it? Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday. Yeah, if you don't know where that's from it's called You've Got Mail. I think it's like 1998. It's a nice little, chick flick, feel good movie. With Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan in it. They made a lot of movies together. Anyway, it's one of my favorite movies. I like those type of movies, man. Anyway, welcome to Chess, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so right before this video is coming out, I was actually trying to shoot the video already, and I almost got done, but I realized that the pictures were wrong. I still had the pictures from the previous game. So it ended up being kind of a blooper video. I just kind of laughed and, kind of joked at the end or whatever. But yeah, it's quite a lot of time to spend on a video for it to just get scrapped. But I did post it for anybody that wants to go back and take a look at that video. It's never nice when you mess up, but, I figured I'd go ahead and post it anyway. Maybe, some people will watch it or they'll get a kick out of it, or a year or two from now, somebody will come across it and say, oh, he has a blooper video. That way, I'm not perfect. Everybody knows that. But, it's just kind of like when you watch a movie, people like watching the bloopers and stuff like that. It's always funny. Anyways, so I had a request to speak Swahili. Now, I actually know a little bit of Swahili. I already have a couple Kenyan friends. So the person that asked me is probably from Kenya, or at least around Kenya. So I'll say Jambo Rafiki. I'll say Baraka to you, which is blessings. And Asante. Thank you for coming across my video, taking a look at it, and giving me your request. You have been actually the second request for me to speak a specific language. I had another friend of mine request for Italian. And also too, Pentala Harikrishna is from India, and he is from the southeastern area of India. And so I'm going to say namaskaram to the people that are from that area that are going to watch these videos. Dhanyavadalu for stopping by. That is a little bit of Telugu for you, which is their language, most generally in Hyderabad. But if you guys are ready, actually before that, at the end of the video, I have the answers to the previous chess puzzle and the brand new chess puzzle. For those of you out there that are die hard, that really gotta have it. But if you guys are ready, let me see if I can't do this again without messing up. Okay, cool. All right, so we got D4. We got knight to F6. We got C4, E6, knight to F3, and we have D5. So we have the Queen's Gambit on the board, so we have knight to C3. And so, we have a lot of different avenues that we can explore with this. I mean, we have C5. We also have C6. We have a bishop to B4 type situation. And we also just have the Queen's Gambit accepted with, D takes C4. And so we see C5 in the game. And in the database of some millions of games, it has about 3,300 times this has actually been played at levels above 2,200 FIDE. Now, the most common move that you're going to see and slightly stronger is going to be C6. So it's going to be a semi-Slav. But we do have the Semi-Tarrasch on the board. And so we see C takes D5. Pawn takes D4, queen takes D4, pawn takes D5, and we have bishop to G5. So bishop to E7 covered that pretty nicely because, of course, you always had the ability to snap that knight off and just win the pawn straight out. So we see E3. We got castles. We got bishop to E2. So knight to C6, kicking the queen. So queen comes back to D3. So we have H6 and we have bishop takes F6. Now that is a brand new move, and it's the novelty of the game. This position has never been seen before. If we just back up here, most commonly we're going to see a bishop to H4. And I think that was played once or twice before. But like I said, we do have bishop takes F6. And so we have bishop takes F6, most logical move. So we have rook to D1, adding some pressure onto that D5 pawn. And so we see knight back to E7. So we have E4. So bishop takes C3. We have queen takes C3. We got bishop E6. Just adding some protection to that pawn there. And as you can see, of course, the pawn is pinned to the queen. So that's a little bit of an issue. And so we see castles by white, and we see queen to B6. So, black is just recognizing that they're kind of in a little bit of trouble as far as this pin is concerned. So they're trying to, relieve that there. And so now, as you guys know, this pawn is no longer pinned, so now it has the ability to take. You know, we go ahead and push it to e5 here. And so we see rook a to c8 and queen down to d2. Now, you know, if you're looking at both sides are doing pretty well. You know, they've completed their development. They have their kings over here tucked away in the corner. You know, the rooks are connected. So by all accounts, you know, the opening is completely done for both sides. And that's something when you're playing your own games that you want to make sure you're paying attention to. You know, a lot of times, especially when you're kind of just starting out, you realize that the queen is a very powerful piece. So you'll move it out really quick. But the thing about it, you know, the queen is very easily attacked by pawns and by pieces that are much less valuable. So it takes a little bit of practice. It takes a lot of kind of working and experience under your belt to be able to start, you know, forcing the bishops and the knights and stuff out and getting castled. Because sometimes it does seem like it wastes a move. But I promise you it's not wasting a move. And there are so many different games that are a testament to what happens if you don't castle. Doesn't matter who you are. So moving on, we have knight to c6 and we have h3. Of course, if we don't play h3, you know, bishop to g4 is going to be coming. And you have the ability to try to snap off this knight and just win this pawn here. So you definitely don't want that. So h3 does protects. Also, it creates a Luft for the king. So as you guys know, Luft is German for air. And so it's a chess term. And so it just basically just means air. And you're just giving your king the ability to step away so you don't have any back rank checkmate issues. So we see d4. And as I say all the time in my videos, passed pawns must be pushed. And so at the end of the day, this is a completely passed pawn. And so, you know, as you have passed pawns and you're able to push them further and further down the board, you know, the opposing side is going to have to start putting some pieces in the way. And that is, so you're going to be able to start trying to put them in a very defensive position. And that's not where you want to be. You know, if your opponent has passed pawns, you know, they have the ability to push it really far down the board and it's going to put you in a really defensive position. So that is what you want to do if you are on the side that has the pass pawn, is try to push it as far down the board as you can, as safely as possible. So we have bishop to d3. We got bishop to d5. So we have rook f to e1, rook f to e8. And as I'm always saying, guys, make sure that you're accurately putting which rook or which knight move from a square to another square, because you don't want to be doing your analysis after a game and you mark the wrong rook or wrong knight, and now your whole analysis of the positions and stuff are completely wrong. So we have bishop to e4, so rook c to d8. We got b3, just protecting those pawns over there on the queen side. So we have a5, queen to f4, bishop takes e4, rook takes e4. We got queen to c5, and we have rook d to e1. Now in this position, Wesley So does play rook to e6. But if we back up here, you want to go ahead and pause the video and see where, it wasn't something that Wesley So missed. It wasn't like the move was, you know, just completely winning. But it definitely was a pretty interesting, you know, variation that I looked at. And it's possible that you might have been able to kind of force this through a little bit, just continuously improve your position. And it would have been really good for black. So like I said, if you want to pause it real quick and see what, see what Wesley So, you know, could have done here alternately other than rook to e6, go ahead and take a minute here. All right, cool. So we have d3. And now, as I was talking about a second ago in all my previous videos, you know, when you have passed pawns, they must be pushed because they just put your, you know, not only are you trying to promote, but it's putting your opponent in a very defensive position. So just looking at a variation that we would see with this, it would be rook to d1, rook would come to d5, we'd see queen to e3, and we would see queen takes e3, rook takes e3, rook e to d8. And so similarly to what we're going to see in a second, but this is just, as you guys can see, if you are white, you are feeling the pressure very severely here. There's nothing really stopping this pawn from coming to d2. And then it's going to make it very hard for the king to try to swing over. And this rook is just going to be basically pinned to his back rank, which is not where you want a heavy piece like that. So going back to what we had, like I said, we did have rook to e6. So we have h4, we have d3, so rook to d1, rook to d5, queen to e3. So we have knight takes e5, knight takes e5, queen takes e3. We got rook takes e3, and rook D takes E5. So we have rook takes E5, rook takes E5, rook takes D3. We have rook down to E1 with check and king to H2. And so that's where that move comes into play. Like I said before, you know, that lift of H3. And if we were to go back to the position here, after queen to E3, if you did directly go to queen takes, you would pretty much end up being in the same position. So just running through the moves, it would just be the same thing. Rook take, rook to E1 and king to H2. So if you were thinking of queen takes immediately, you were pretty much thinking along the same lines. So going back to what we had before, king to H2. And so we have rook to E2. And so rook to D8 with check, king goes to H7, rook to D7. So we have rook takes F2, rook takes B7, rook takes A2, rook takes F7. We got rook to B2, rook to A7, rook takes B3, rook takes A5. We got B4, and of course G3 is going to be you know, the best move. I mean, you can also go king to H3. Because after a check from the rook, you're going to be moving the pawn up. And this is a pretty, you know, whenever you're playing rook in games, this is how you want to have your, you know, your pieces configured, and then the king moving up and stuff like that. And usually if you're up a pawn, you have a good chance of trying to win. Or if you are up 2 pawns in this type of a rook in game, you have the ability to, you know, force a win through. But of course, you know, we have everything equal on both sides. So we have rook to B2 with check, king comes up to H3. We got rook to B3, pinning the pawn to the king. We got king back to H2, rook to B2 with check, king back to H3, rook to B3, rook, king back to H2, and we have rook to B2 with check. And we have repeated positions 3 times. So that is a draw by 3-fold repetition. As you can see, neither side can really make any progress. I mean, unless something magical happens, there's not really a way to create, you know, a passed pawn from these situations, because the king is always going to need, you know, both of these kings are always going to need the protection of the pawns. You know, if you move your pawns too far forward, it's going to, you know, it's going to create, you know, the ability for your king to either be cut off. So, for example, after, let's say here. So if let's say you just made like kind of a random, let's see, when the king is back here, maybe let's say if you were to go back here, you know, your king would be cut off now. Let's see here, if you didn't check, let's say rook moved here or something like that, and you pushed up, now you see you're cut off. You don't have the ability to move up now, so you really need that pawn to be back. So that way your king has the ability to try to come up or something like that. But like I said, I mean, it is a very drawn type of game. So that's why they got to a draw. Now getting to these chess puzzles, the one that I gave you, oops, kind of gave you the answer already. My bad. Now, yeah, that was the answer. Bishop. Oh no, that was the last one. Hold on, let me get to the new one. Oh, this is one I gave you. Cool. Yeah, forgive my mistakes, guys. I'm not perfect. Bam. Come on. Come on. There we go. Okay, so like I said, this one was super difficult. I completely didn't get the right answer at all. You know, I was kind of thinking that there might have been something like maybe with bishop take, or, you know, with knight here, but it didn't really seem to work. But the answer is actually knight takes E5. Now, after queen takes E5, you do have knight to D5, and that is discovering an attack on the queen here. And so this knight kind of freely was able to move. But of course, you know, if queen was to take here, you would just have knight coming over here, and that would be checkmate in 1. So the queen has to go back to D6. So after bishop to A3, you're really forcing the issue with the queen. So you kind of have to give the queen up, because if you do move the queen out of the way, you know, like to here or something like that, I mean, this knight is just going to take, or the bishop's going to take. You're just going to be losing way too much material. So the pawn has to take. So the bishop takes the queen, and then after you take on C4, you do have bishop takes E7, king takes E7, and you're pushing the pawn to E5. Knight would come back to E8, and you would have queen to D5, perfectly centralizing the queen. And this isn't just completely won, but you do have quite a bit of material for white here. Now, giving you the next puzzle here. This is also a double attack, You know, like I say before, you always have to make sure you're paying attention to undefended pieces in your opponent's positions. So as you can see, the bishop is undefended and so is the queen. So see if there might be a way for you to take advantage of that. But anyway, I appreciate you guys stopping by. And as always, leave me some comments down below if you would like for me to speak your language to you. I know quite a bit of them already, but you know, I'll definitely learn a few words for you. So like I said from our guy earlier, Asante Rafiki, I appreciate everything and baraka to you. And I will see you guys in the next video and appreciate it. All right, guys.